The Padres could make sneaky good signings, as these players might be underrated on many people's radars, but could also be perfect fits for the Padres. Let's talk about it. Hi, welcome back to another episode of Padres Digest with your host, Andrew. Today I got some, I'm going to say underrated. They might not be underrated, but let's just say they're not on everyone's top of their wish list this Christmas. Let's put it that way. Before we get too deep into it, though, please subscribe as always. So as you guys know, I like dumpster diving to finding some relatively cheap. I guess some of these players aren't really going to be cheap, but they're going to be names that are known, acquirable, and could probably help this team out, I guess is the best way I could describe it. I'm going to start from the most relevant player, no offense to them, but most relevant player to the least relevant player. But I want you to know, even the least relevant player would be a huge addition to this team in many different ways. For example, I think one of our biggest faults from last year is that we're horrible against left-handed pitching. So a lot of these players will be good. Also, please apply if you'd like, against left-handed pitching. I mean, even Tatis Jr., who is a right-handed batter. So normally when you have opposite side pitching and hitters, usually right-handed hitters would hit better against left-handed pitchers. But for like someone like Tatis, it's actually the opposite, where Tatis hits much better against righties. So my point I'm trying to make is we need some good left-handed hitters. So I found some good possible hitters. So let's start the one you probably saw in the intro, probably the most recognizable one, Paul Goldschmidt. Andrew, Paul Goldschmidt is old and not as good as he used to be. I agree. However, he hits well against lefties. I mean, look at these platoon splits. Lefty, 336 average, 7 home runs, 16 RBIs. Slug is at 570. So, let me show you this too real quick. Also, I didn't mention this. I get all of these names from this Jeff Passan article, so shout out to you, Jeff Passan. But the only right-handed hitter with higher weighted runs created plus against left-handed pitchers than Paul Goldschmidt last season, Aaron Judge. Who wants to see Goldie back? That's for the Yankees. We don't care about you. But why would Paul Goldschmidt be a good idea? 295 average against left-handed pitchers. It looks like it's saying 336 on this one. So also I had ChatGPT help me as always. 888 OPS. This one says 981, so even better. Still solid contact quality versus lefties. Overall production down, but power remains versus southpaws. Why he fits the Padres. Best short side platoon DH first base option on the market. Perfect partner with Shildt or Cronenworth. Veteran leadership for a young roster. Cheap one-year contract makes the team better without blocking long-term growth. So I think if for the correct price, this would be a good option to platoon with, say we have Shildt at first, who is a left-handed hitter, or Cronenworth at first, who is also a left-handed hitter, and Paul Goldschmidt being a lefty destroyer because he's a right-handed hitter. That could be a pretty good fit. I mean, his batting run value is still around average. So honestly, I don't know exactly what Tatis's was, but I'm not sorry, Tatis, Cronenworth's was, but I'm also assuming around average. So he still has good in him. I mean, 274 average is better than a lot of our players. 403 slug is better than some of our players. Like, he's old. He might be a little bit more expensive than we'd hopefully pay for, but I'm hoping his market won't be that great because he is 38 years old. But I think for a cheap enough price, I think he can fill some good holes for us. I mean, even, what was it, 2022, he won MVP with 35 home runs. And that was, what, 3 years ago? Going to be 4 years ago if we sign him for next season. So it's not like he's horrible. I mean, he has potential to be a good platoon bat for the Padres. Do you agree? Let me know. Next player I want to bring up, Danny Jansen, catcher for the Brewers. For the Brewers. As you know, we have, I don't want to say a catcher problem, but a catcher need, right? And Danny Jansen's not like an amazing catcher. He's not like the top name on the market, but he is someone who has power. And what are we lacking? Players with power. I know he looks like he hits, or does look like he does hit worse against lefties than righties, but we also have Freddie Fedamine. So Freddie Fedamine can also just bat against lefties. But I think an interesting platoon would be power bat Danny Jansen, and if we need contact or better defense, we have Freddie Fedamine. But 2025 stats, 238, 321, 456 slash line. Is that correct? No, I don't know where you're getting these stats from. That's okay, ChatGPT. I still love you. But 500 slug against left-handed pitchers. Let's see, 406, not there. But consistently hits for power, even in part-time roles. He does hit for power, that is true. Padres need a third catcher or a first base DH part-time catcher rotation. I would put him over Campusano if we were to sign him. But he gives elite power from the catcher position. Yes, because catchers, there's not a lot of power-hitting catchers. Perfect to share reps with Campusano plus DH some days. Or Fermin, but you know what I mean. Won't cost starter money and allows Padres to protect Campusano from overuse. I would still put him over Campusano. I don't agree with you here, ChatGPT, but still, I know the stats don't look great, right? But to be honest, he's not going to be Cal Raleigh. He's not going to be JT Realmuto. He's going to be someone who hit for power, not great average, but and a team where our average wasn't really our problem, our on-base wasn't really our problem was slug and scoring those runs, I think he could be fine. I mean, his defense isn't bad. I mean, he does block the ball pretty well. It doesn't frame that well. Pop time's not great. But he does a good enough job, right? And I think for the price, that should be an interesting pick. It's not necessary, but it's an interesting pick. Another interesting pick, Willie Castro, who played left field for the Cubs, but he's a second base normally, but mostly a utility player. He can literally play anywhere. And I think that's interesting because I feel like there's an interesting part in this lineup for someone who can play literally anywhere. Think like Profar before we stuck him only in left field. And of course, he does hit better against lefties, which we need. He does have more home runs with righties against lefties, but still 250 average versus 218. I think that's better, right? But around 2.0 WAR last year, 259, is that correct? Let's just read it this way. 226, 313, 366, or yeah, 366 slash, whatever. I messed up my own slash line. Whatever. But 11 home runs, 17 stolen bases. Well, it says 10 here. I don't know where you're getting that from, but he can play literally anywhere. If Cronenworth moves to first, Castro can play second base instantly. And I think it's interesting, right? I think Castro can play against both sides. So say we put Castro in at second against righties, which means we can put Cronenworth at first and then have Sheets play DH. Well, if we sign Paul Goldschmidt as well, he can play as on the bench, right? But I think Castro gives you so many different ideas. Even this, right? Machado is not getting better on defense. I guess maybe Bogaerts might regress. So if we have to move one of them to DH, Willie Castro can fill in and play a good enough glove anywhere to fill in that role. So I think he gives you very, very many options, and he's only 28 years old, so he's still relatively young, right? So he's a switch hitter with speed, great short-term, everyday utility hybrid, a classic Preller versatility signing, but with actual production behind it. Again, none of these players are like the sexiest players of all time, but I think there's a definite spot on any major league roster for someone like Willie Castro, and I would love to see that on a team like the Padres. Again, nothing insane, but 226 average. He did have I think he struggled the second half of the first half. I had a picture for it. I didn't show you guys this, but if you want to read it, feel free. But yeah, it was a rough second half for the utility man. So yeah, he had a horrible second half, but he slashed 265, 356, 435 with the Twins while playing 5 positions. So that's crazy. But again, I know it's not the sexiest fit, but he is someone who could fill a nice little role for the Padres. And I think we could use some nice little role players on this team. And then finally, a name that you've probably heard, maybe. He's very underrated, but he has a good place on this team. Why? He destroys left-handers. He is one of the best left-handed hitters, I don't want to say in the league, but for someone you probably don't know about, he is great against lefties. I'll show you this real quick. Rob Refsnyder against left-handed pitchers since 2022. 133 hits, 28 doubles, 19 home runs, 77 RBIs, 64 walks, a 312, 407, 516 slash line. He is an outfielder, and like I mentioned before, someone like Tatis is not great against lefties. I'm not saying take Tatis out of the lineup, but I'm saying balance it out a little bit, right? Maybe put Rob Refsnyder in like somewhere in the lineup. Second, I don't care, right? But somewhere in this lineup, we need someone who can hit against lefties because we do not have someone who hits well against lefties. I mean, Sheets did hit well against lefties. I know O'Hearn, I think he did against lefties well, but he's gone now, right? So 2025 stats against lefties, 302, 399, 560 slash line, 350 or 959 OPS. And he is very good. Pure left-handed specialist off the bench. So even if it's late in the game and you're facing Josh Hader coming in the close, you'll put in Rob Refsnyder, and he has a better chance to get a hit than other players on this team. Ideal 4th or 5th outfielder behind Merrill, Laureano, Tatis. He does have okay defense, not really, but could be worse. But you can put him anywhere. If someone gets injured, you can slot him in. Veteran, cheap, and predictable performance. Replaces the role the Padres haven't had since the old Will Myers left-handed pitching destroyer days. Great complement to a mostly right-handed lineup. Now that the Arraez is gone, we're losing a lefty, so we have Cronenworth, Sheets. I'm going to blank out any other names, but yell at me if you must. But I think for what he might cost, I think he would be a very interesting addition to the team, purely for the fact that he can mash against lefties. Against righties, bench him, don't even let him sniff the field. But against lefties, hell yeah. Hell yeah. So what are these contracts probably going to look like? Again, I had my best friend ChatGPT write some stuff up, but he got it from like MLB trade rumor projections and all that. But Rob Refsnyder, he would probably cost around $2 to $3 million for a year. He's usually always a year type player, but cheap, easy fit for the Padres. Willie Castro, 2 years, 10 to 12 million, so like 5 million a year. Not super expensive, not super cheap, but a good young player. And if Cronenworth moves to first, he's ideal, or anywhere. Literally put him anywhere. Literally anywhere on the field, you can put him. Paul Goldschmidt, he would be a 1 year, 8 to 10. I know it's a little bit more expensive, but we're going to hope that his market is going to fall because he's so old. I hope we can get him from around like, I'm going to say, I'm so sorry, 6-7 million. Veteran bat at a reasonable cost. Again, put him against lefties. He'll hit really well. Danny Jansen, he's a good catcher, number 2 position, DH, 2 years, 16. That would be 8 million a year. Again, hopefully we can get him for cheaper, but to be honest, someone like him is probably more in demand for other MLB teams because MLB teams want power from the catcher position. But if he somehow falls to us and falls cheaper, that would be great. But I think he'd be a good... Would you want to pay $8 million for a backup catcher? Or I feel like it'd be a good 50-50 split between Danny Jansen and Federmean. But let me know what you guys think. Do you guys like any of these players that I presented? Or do you think they're all trash? Andrew, hurry up and do a Pete Alonso video. Or do you guys see the value in people who can hit well against left-handed pitchers and the value in these players? Or again, do you want me to just find the creme of the crop, top 10, pull out the top 10 free agent signings and give me videos on them? I'll do it if you want. Just tell me. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have a fantastic rest of your day. Please subscribe and go Padres. Goodbye.